Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. It's Jerry Miller. It's good to be with you on a Thursday on the I Love CVille Network, live across Charlottesville, Albemarle County, Central Virginia, and frankly, anywhere Facebook and the World Wide Web is. So we could have a global audience here. We have good people, and I'm very excited to welcome Elliott Harding very shortly to the show. This guy's an entrepreneur. He's an attorney. He's actively involved in politics at the local level, at the congressional level, follows it very closely. The nephew of Chip Harding, a man who I think needs no introduction in Charlottesville and Central Virginia and Albemarle County. We're going to welcome Elliott very soon to the show. First, let's give some love to some of the fine folks that make the program possible. I'd like to start with Intrastate Pest and Service Companies. Since 1969, one business, Intrastate Pest and Service Companies, has been your pest control, mold remediation, and home renovation specialist. And it's clear-cut, guys. It's clear-cut that Intrastate is the market leader. Started in 1969 with Mr. Wells, and he had one truck and himself. He had a dream to build a business. He would go visit the first business, the first home. He would service the business successfully, and then he would head literally to a phone booth where he would call his second customer and say, "May I come over now?" Now, Intrastate Pest and Service Companies is a 4-generation strong business. 4 generations. The office is headquartered on Harris. You got an office right around the corner from Boden. You got an office in the Shenandoah Valley, an office in Richmond, and a Commonwealth-wide footprint, and they are literally doing things the right way at Intrastate Pest and Service Companies, a home's best friend. We're their proud advertising agency of record. We're also the proud advertising agency of record of the good doctor, Scott Wagner, Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. Who's got your back? Dr. Wagner's team has your back, undoubtedly. Chiropractic care, sports medicine, physical therapy. He is improving people's lives at Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. We encourage you to support these fine businesses because they're making Charlottesville a better community without question. What I would like to do is I would like to encourage you to like and share the program. Liking and share the program gives the program more spotlight and gets our guests more attention, and Elliott Harding undoubtedly deserves that. I'm going to start the show a little bit differently, and then we're going to welcome Elliott to the show. Joe Biden announced his campaign for presidency yesterday with roughly a 4-minute video that, I was not a huge fan of. I was disappointed with it. I was disenchanted with it. I was disheartened with it. I felt that Joe Biden exploited August 11th and August 12th, 2017 for his personal gain, for his campaign for presidency. He once again put Charlottesville in the spotlight in a way that I don't think is indicative of our community by showing white supremacists carrying tiki torches around grounds at the University of Virginia, down here on Market Street. He highlighted and spotlighted the evil and the racist behavior for his personal gain, and he exploited what happened on August 11th and August 12th to create a narrative that he is going to try to leverage to compete against Donald Trump. And I think part of the reason we're in this situation is because Donald Trump made a very boneheaded comment when he said that there were fine people on either side here on August 11th and August 12th, and that was not the case. There were not fine people on either side on A12 in Charlottesville. I saw it firsthand. I was right out here in front of the Macklin building, and I saw sin and evil that I'd never seen before. And I thought, and we are in the process of healing, of galvanizing and coming together as a community and getting stronger and using A11 and A12 to potentially as a point that we can have conversations like we had yesterday with Carl Brown on the I Love CVille show. Now Joe Biden is putting this back in the spotlight, and it's going to be there for the next 18 months as he runs for a spot in the White House, and that irritates the heck out of me. With that off my chest, I'm going to welcome Elliott Harding, who's got a big, beautiful brain. Let's go to the studio cam, the 2-shot, and then the 1-shot on Elliott. Please, Harris Tolber, our director. I'm going to start open-ended. First, I'm going to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Then I'm going to get out of your way, and I'm going to say, what are your thoughts on Joe Biden's campaign announcement? Because I know you follow that very closely.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's to be expected out of somebody like Joe Biden. He's a career politician, and they'll find anything and use it in a way that he thinks is smart. Personally, I thought it was gross. for him to talk about something like Charlottesville. And the national media wanted us to draw to the extremism, but let's look at the underlying narrative, and that was racial division, racial issues, and really stoking that fire when he's been personally responsible for the 1994 crime bill, which put more minorities behind bars in the history of the United States. And he's famously quoted as saying back in '94 he wanted to see 100,000 more beds in prisons and 100,000 more cops on the streets. And that ended up leading to the last 25 years of awful criminal justice system that disproportionately impacted minorities, and especially African Americans. And that was at Biden's doing. The way he excoriated Clarence Thomas during those times and really kicked racial tensions back then as well. At the end of the day, Joe Biden is exactly what we thought he was. I'm glad he didn't come here, but I would have enjoyed joining my progressive neighbors and kind of calling him out for his history. I don't think he got off on the right foot. I think that Charlottesville is going to speak up against that this time next year. I don't think you're going to get a lot of Biden love at the polls this time next year for the Democrats.
I agree. And let's do this. Let's create 2 sizzle reels. First, my sizzle reel of what I said with the one-shot Harris, start to finish, and then his sizzle reel, what he just said, because I thought it was on point. Larry Rhodes, thank you very much. He says, well said, fellas. Laura Jackson is, I'm here for the politics. I enjoy the show. Thank you, Laura Jackson. Jim Hamlet, thank you kindly for watching here on the I Love CVille show. We have folks in Richmond, Crozet, outside D.C., and outside Charlotte currently watching. Al Schoenberg, I started the show like I told you I would start the show. With the utter disappointment, the being disenchanted, disappointed, and frankly disheartened with Joe Biden and how he announced his run for presidency, exploiting Charlottesville. I think, and I'm going to throw it back to you, and guys, Elliott Harding is actively involved with politics, actively involved with the Republican Party, an entrepreneur, an attorney, and born and raised in this community. So I think he's a guy that undoubtedly could speak about this. There was scuttlebutt, Washington Examiner, the Philadelphia Inquirer, there was scuttlebutt that he was going to announce his campaign for presidency in Charlottesville. And they pivoted, his campaign and his committee and his team pivoted. And I think the reason they pivoted is because they saw the backlash on social media of people saying like, hell no, Joe. Yeah. We don't want you to leverage this here.
Well, it's clear that was going to happen based on his video. Right. It's not like we made it up. It wasn't some random rumor. Right. It's clear that he was going to consider it. I personally think that he probably got some of the same operatives as Terry McAuliffe when McAuliffe said he wasn't running for president. Some of those folks probably joined up with Biden's team. It would have been 100 times worse as far as exploiting Charlottesville if McAuliffe had run for president. He has a book coming out titled Charlottesville.
About this, about A11 and A12.
And so it's obvious he was going to come here. He should have. To me, Joe Biden's going to be the Jeb Bush of the Democrat Party, where he's going to be the proverbial favorite early on, very early on. He's going to raise a ton of money, and it's going to be like this mothership that doesn't know how to dodge and weave in a dogfight. And you see other candidates that clearly know what issues to touch on and what issues not to touch on. And Joe Biden just stumbled out of the blocks. He extended his campaign release multiple months. He said, my attorneys say I can't run or I can't announce or I can't raise any more money. And then he announces 3 weeks later. I think he's tripping out of the gates. I think, at least in this community, I know it wasn't well respected. I don't know how it's going to play nationally. But again, from a Charlottesville perspective, I'm a little angry that he would cast that negative light on us again when we know so many of those bad actors were not from here.
Right.
And he tries to double down on Charlottesville being like a bad place.
Right. And not only was the commentary from Joe, I feel like, out of touch, but I feel like the video he was showing, literally exploiting the Nazis and the white supremacists carrying tiki torches on grounds down Market Street right in front of this building here and talking about about the hate and the venom, as opposed to celebrating the positive, as opposed to celebrating how the community has come together since A11 and A12. And I mean, there's positives that have come from A11 and A12. I'm going to throw it to you.
Yeah.
The dialogues on affordable housing.
Oh, sure.
Dialogues that have never happened before since A11 and A12. He chose instead to highlight the negative, which as an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur yourself, highlighting the negative like that for the next 18 months is only going to have potential negative ramifications for our economic ecosystem in the community.
Well, what he also did is he set a marker where now every time one of the other 19 or 20 candidates come through Virginia, they're going to highlight Charlottesville too now, because Biden, let out the gates with Charlottesville and this hyperbole. Every other candidate now, when they come into Virginia, is going to feel like they have to address it. So it's not just going to be through Biden. It's going to be through the other 19, 20, 30, however many. Every time they come into Virginia, they're going to mention Charlottesville. And it's just going to continue to sully not just businesses, but the reputation of the positives that we're trying to move forward. And yes, there's a lot that needs to be addressed in Charlottesville, don't get me wrong. But he's not talking about local issues. I don't even know if he's ever been to Charlottesville. I'm glad he didn't come this week. But it's something we need to get used to out of the presidential cycle.
I mean, you expect it for the next 18 months from everybody?
When they come into Virginia, I bet when Pete Buttigieg goes down to the Richmond Democratic Party thing, he'll mention Charlottesville. Beto came through here
to UVA
a couple weeks ago. I don't know if it came up then, but if he comes back, I'm sure he will. I know Kamala Harris will probably bring it up, and all these folks will. And guess what? I expect them to bring it up a little bit. But for him to lead out the gates with that type of rhetoric, but never forget, he's the same guy that said that Republicans were going to put them back in chains, right? He used that rhetoric. I think that was down in Roanoke even, or maybe it was North Carolina. I can't remember. But he uses language like that all the time. And rather than focusing on his record when he was a vice president for Obama, which I expected that, right?
That's what I thought he was going to do.
I thought he was going to say, look at all the great things in the eyes of the Democrats.
Right.
I take issue with a lot of the things that went down personally, but you're running to your audience. You would think he's going to talk about good things rather than kick us for his own gain and just stoke that fire one more time.
I would encourage anybody who's watching the show, and your boy Dean Cumbo
nice.
is giving you props, and you're doing a great job.
Thanks, Dean.
You're getting some love here from Nisha Whitehead.
Sweet.
Like and share the stream, guys. If you have a question, comment about what we're talking about, put it on whatever channel you're watching on the I Love CVille network. We're live on 7 Facebook pages. We got people out there waving to us. Elliott's born and raised in the area. Harding name has got a very good reputation in the community. St. Anne's Belfield graduate, UVA graduate, Washington and Lee Law School.
Yes, sir.
I would highly encourage anyone watching the show to pull out your iPhone, and I want you to Google Joe Biden's campaign announcement, especially for the folks that are living in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. And you literally will see how someone who's running for president and challenging Donald Trump, what his strategy is most likely going to be, one of his strategies for the next 18 months as he tries to get a seat in the White House. Now, we need to highlight the other side of the coin. One of the reasons we are in this perspective, one of many reasons we are in this situation, is because of a line that Donald Trump probably regrets saying, where he said that there were fine people on either side of the coin on August 11th and 12th. You could say it was taken out of context.
No, I'm not going to go that route. They were going to blame Trump for whether he said anything. Because you had a lot of people here who are extremists that were looking to get their own platform, and they attach it to him. And whether Trump could have said the perfect words, and it would, the whole event, the alt-right component would have been tried to cast themselves onto Trump. It's like a virus, or do you get mad at the host when the virus comes in? In this case, people always want to say that he's stoking that flame. But let's also look back. Trump started off his election in 2016 with some pretty bold rhetoric too, coming down that escalator and instantly going to an issue that none of the other candidates wanted to talk about, and that was immigration. But he came in and said some stuff that was aggressive early too, and I remember that kind of shook the waters at the time. Biden, though, is trying to have his foot in both camps. I mean, he is a moderate. He has a very long record. It's an awful record for racial issues. So I really think it's hypocritical for him to step out here. I'm really surprised he's opening himself up, because the more rope he takes on this one, I don't think it's going to end up well for him.
Do you think, as someone born and raised in the community, and we talked about this yesterday with Carl Brown, and guys, check out the Carl Brown interview on ilovecville.com. He was born and raised in the community, a very I thought thoughtful and intelligent and well-spoken and just fantastic all-around interview yesterday with Carl Brown. This is the question I'm going to throw to you. How have you seen, from your perspective, the community changing since August 11th and August 12th?
Oh, I mean, in a lot of ways. First of all, as a community, we were violated, generally speaking. I think the tiki torch, never forget, it kind of compounded on itself. August 11th and 12th didn't just come out of nowhere. There had been some tiki torch presence back in May of that year, I think, and then the Klan came, and I was outside of that, and I watched that. And, you know, we knew who these folks were, and we kind of knew what they were planning to do. We didn't know anyone was going to pass away and be murdered. That was tragic, or that the poor officers were going to lose their lives that day either. That wasn't something that we wanted to see. But since then, I think people want to find a way to channel that pain into positive energy. And that's one thing I take away from the community.
It's a whole premise of this show.
Right. They want to channel their pain into something good. And that's why, that's a silver lining of it, I guess, is, you know, people are more aware. And it's on the tip of everyone's tongue, whether it be affordable housing issues, whether it be educational access to better opportunities, whether it be criminal justice reform, or just more people getting politically active in order to speak up. I think those are all good things. But, you know, they're not, so far the good has not outweighed the bad. And for Biden, and not to focus on Biden too much, but for him,
we'll move on from him.
Yeah, but for him, for Virginia and Charlottesville, Virginians know that Charlottesville's not that way.
Right.
Yeah. So. Right.
I feel like George Urban, thank you for watching. Jake Waddell, Alex Richards, Chris Turner, Tim Ryan, Grace Australia, Steve Henderson, John Miska, Anisha Whitehead, Stephanie Rhodes, Ray Cadell, Charlie Scott, Shane Buchanan. Thank you for watching here. Like and share the stream. Give it a like and share. Let's talk about you. Right. Let's go straight to you. Yeah. Let's go passions, hobbies, interests. This man's getting married on Saturday.
Saturday's
What's that like, dude?
Yeah, so
you're in the thick.
Yeah. Work the next 2 days is kind of on pause. So, you know, we got folks coming in from up north, all the way from California and Texas for the wedding. So that's exciting. My passions and hobbies are the town. Charlottesville's got so much to offer, and whether it be politics, which is a way to kind of speak up and get engaged, but there's so many broad issues that are intriguing that kind of keep my passions going. I'm an attorney here in town, born and raised here. I'm very proud and loyal to Charlottesville, and I'm glad that my fiance was. I'm blessed to have a fiance that was willing to move here.
She's a beautiful lady.
Oh yeah, she's gorgeous.
You've done well right
and
there.
She's a genius, and yeah, I outkicked my coverage for sure.
I was going to say that, Elliott Harding.
Yeah, and so I'm very blessed, but I'm also blessed to have somebody who's willing to join me in continuing to lay roots in the community, because, you know, from the legal perspective, we are oversaturated in talent. UVA draws that in. Charlottesville's all the biggest firms in Virginia have a presence here. Whether or not they're, you know, kicking down the doors of the court every day is one thing, but everyone wants to be here. And from a legal perspective, there's a lot of history here, obviously, and it's something that I'm happy to be about. But I think that recently, you know, we've got wedding guests coming in. They're like, "Oh, Charlottesville, I've never been there. What's it like?" Because of the rhetoric that's out there, and we're excited to show a better perspective.
I like that. Let's turn that into a sizzle reel. Start with my question all the way through his answer. Passions, hobbies, interests, and then that answer right there. Ask him about the suit against CVille. That's from John. I'm going to throw that to you. We can, if you want to hit that topic. People are saying you're doing a great job. This is a fantastic interview. Dean is saying he's passionate for people of his town and state. He is a future leader. I agree 100% with that, Dean. How about the suit against CVille? You want to touch that?
Sure. I mean, John, I'm representing John.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much in the details, but
he's bringing it up.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. How about this? John can write some details and kind of tag I'm sure a CVille article, a weekly article or something about that. He can tag it in the feed. But generally speaking, what happened was the year after 8/12, the city tried to kind of
Police state.
compensate for what happened the year before.
Is this the razor blades?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like to focus on the iced tea.
Right, the
He
iced
bought
tea.
some canned
Right,
iced tea
right.
out of CVS.
It's ridiculous.
And meanwhile, commercial activity, rightfully so, still taking place on the downtown mall. And I don't know. It's hard to ban things when you can walk in the store and buy them and walk out. You know. So I like to think that we're going to have a positive outcome. I think the city knows that the city's trying to do the right thing here, but generally speaking, the law needs to be reworked and brought back in, and I think we'll have a positive outcome in the suit. It's a federal civil rights suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy that type of litigation as well.
Why do you enjoy it?
Oh, it's the Constitution, man. I mean, there's nothing better. I didn't grow up wanting to be an attorney.
You did not?
No. I grew up seeing law enforcement. You mentioned Chip. Chip has all amazing stories of his career, like 40 plus years, 50, almost probably 50 years in law enforcement.
Nephew of Chip Harding, Albemarle County Sheriff,
Yeah.
successful sheriff.
So I enjoyed that stuff, but I went to St. Anne's, you mentioned, in high school, and John Grisham, his kids went there, and I started reading all those books and getting kind of the bug. And then you look at the historical aspect of Charlottesville, whether it be Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, and the Constitution and all that, you start to, I don't know, take a little pride in civil liberties and making sure that government is small and protects people's choices and freedoms and liberties. And now I get to do that for a living. I get to kind of fight back against the system if they're oppressive. And it helps me wake up in the morning.
John says single-edged scraper blades. Single-edged scraper blades. Thank you for sharing the show, John. We appreciate that. Give the show a like and a share. That's all we ask. 4 people worked very hard to put this show together. Give it a like and share. Christian Raymond, thank you kindly for doing that. We certainly appreciate that. Jonathan Galasso, Bill Granford, Rob Lawson, Michael Jameson, thank you kindly for liking and sharing the show. Ron Gantz, hello. Mary Birkholz, hello. Angela Andalek, hello. Talk about the entrepreneurial piece.
Oh, yeah.
Washington and Lee Law School, come back to your home where you grow up in, have a good reputation. You're well-spoken, you're intelligent, you have vision. How about I say this, the courage and the gumption and the fortitude to start a business in a saturated competitive market.
Yeah. So most of my experience is in criminal defense work. I worked for a long time all through law school and immediately after for a firm out of Richmond. And in the criminal defense sector, it's not like every other large firm where you've got maybe a corporate client and you're doing billables. It's more individual based. And so you kind of, you can hang your own shingle.
You got to hustle.
Yeah. And as a younger guy, I could have tried to go like the corporate route and bill 2,500 hours out of the year and try to get the bonuses. But
had no life.
Right. And for me, I enjoy getting in the courtroom. I enjoy helping people out. I enjoy the individual component. And so, starting my own firm.
That was ballsy.
Well, it's got to grow sometime.
Yeah.
And some people, and I've got a good support network, and I've been fortunate to have some cases that were unexpected, but they're exciting, and I've found some odd niches in the law. One fun niche is dog related cases. I'm a big lover that you help out Animal Connection and bring them in. I'm still fighting for Nico, who's a local pit bull.
Can we talk about that at all?
Sure. Well, generally speaking, we still have a positive outcome that we're hoping for.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we've been able to, continue the fight as long as we have. I am still optimistic that he's going to run free someday.
Give us the who, what, when, where, why of Nico, because I think this is a hot topic in the area.
Well, and it's led to me being able to help other dog owners from Harrisonburg down to Virginia Beach in various cases. If you've got it, a lot of people won't help out the owners of dogs in whatever scenario it is. It doesn't have to be a criminal-related case where maybe a dog killed a cat or something, which is what happened in Nico's situation. Back in 2014, he's a pit bull, and it's not that his breed. Most larger dogs are going to go after a cat or a rabbit or something, and ultimately he got ordered to be euthanized, and I've been able to maintain the fight, hopefully, to get him out. And he's been there ever since, though. And the people at the SPCA have been wonderful in taking care of him and the local animal community generally.
We have Angie Gunner on the show all the time.
She's amazing.
Yeah, director of the SPCA.
Is amazing.
She's amazing.
And they are very well loved. But it's led to me being able to help out other dog owners throughout Virginia. And we joke when we say dog law because it sounds ridiculous. People think of bird law from, I forget what show it is, but I think it's Always Sunny or something. But people think it's a joke. But a lot of people are in need. And it's like family members to a lot of people. And when you turn around and your dog's about to be taken from you or killed, or maybe it got injured, maybe someone hurt your dog. But anyway, that's a niche little thing. But going out on my own kind of allows me the freedom to take on cases that I might not otherwise be permitted to take in a firm environment.
Because you have autonomy.
Yes, and that's the biggest reason I wanted to go to law school. Was that I could be free from...
You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and, I respect you in that realm as well. And
it ain't easy.
Yeah, and it's not that I can't work with someone, but that's how I always view it as a team.
Sure.
Even if I have a direct superior, I view it as a team. And for me, being able to go out on my own is a liberating experience.
I love it. That was a great answer. Mary Birkholz, who's the president and founder of Caring for Creatures, which is Central Virginia's first no-kill animal sanctuary. She's given you some props. She says, I absolutely love this. Please keep helping those people in need of legal counsel for their dogs. She's given you big-time props. Mary's show airs on the I Love CVille network today at 3 p.m., so make sure you tune into that. How about coming and starting a firm, being in the legal, legal space when you're the nephew of a Chip Harding?
I think generally Chip's got a pretty positive
I think so.
reputation. He, especially, when he was able to become sheriff, he's done a lot for that sheriff's department, but he's done a lot in policy. He's used his platform, whether it was when he was the Charlottesville Police Department or when as an investigator and in his long career there, or as sheriff, to talk about things like innocence and exonerations and DNA and the policy as far as not only catching people that have gone unclaimed in cold cases, but also getting people out that are innocent. I cannot think of anything more egregious than someone innocent behind bars. And that's a lot where my libertarian streak comes through.
I'm a libertarian too.
And I identify myself as a libertarian more than a conservative. But, in politics, the words get thrown around.
Why so, specifically?
Just because historically conservatives have had much more of a social focus where they think the government can regulate vice and sin out of people's lives, when in reality it's been taking place since the beginning of man.
Right.
And I think that it's up for us as a people to kind of help each other get out of problems rather than have the state do it. The state's very ineffective at doing it. It becomes arbitrary. It becomes oppressive. You see it in our criminal justice system, and you see it where it's a great example is maybe be drug reform, right? And people are saying, oh, well, if you legalize cannabis, people are going to all become potheads, and then it's going to be awful, and they're going to be harder drugs. When in reality, sure, people can abuse anything, but people abuse, you can abuse cheese and get a heart attack in it.
You can eat too many Doritos.
Right. And it doesn't mean you should be promoting these things, but there's a certain component of, is it the most effective and efficient manner? And the law, conservatives have historically used the law in a way that I think is hypocritical to the founding principles of the Jeffersonian view of America. Now, the opposite side uses the government for everything else. And so I take much more issue with the left, obviously, but I'm just saying for our purposes. We were talking about Chip. We were talking about what it's like to be an attorney here with him as the sheriff. I don't know. I think, again, people respect him, and I hope to be able to expand and expound on a legacy of fighting for some criminal justice reform.
Tanner Hirschfield loves the dog law comment.
Thanks.
John is putting a lot of stuff in the feed. Ask Elliott, toaster or blender. We're gonna slide step. We're gonna slide step that. John, Yona Smith, thank you for watching in Fluvanna County. Terry Cadell, thank you kindly for watching. Give the show a like and a share. That would mean the world to us. Just tap a like or tap a share in whatever stream you're watching. I find myself libertarian for the following reasons: is because as an entrepreneur, as someone who his entire life has been has been a leader, has been willing to kind of innovate, has been willing to do things that are against the norm, willing to, be courageous and step out into an area where others aren't. As an entrepreneur, as someone who necessarily does not want the government in and operating within his business, but someone who at the same time is socially liberal.
Yeah.
I am physically conservative, socially liberal, and that's the party I most identify with. In a lot of ways, I feel that we need a strong third party.
Well, I wish we had one. That's one thing. Before we got on the air, you mentioned one of your tenants running for the local race, Sally Hudson. She's fought for ranked choice voting, which I give her a lot of credit for. Nick Freitas, real close with.
He's watching now.
He's really. That's
yeah,
funny.
he's watching right now.
Assembly, and he was a proponent of ranked choice voting as well, because it breaks the party control of the system, where we've got this hyperpolarity. Ranked choice voting is something that would allow people to kind of find that middle ground, find that place where that natural resting place. And I think that if you polled most people under the age of 40 who haven't necessarily had multiple decades of voting for one party or another, but people that are kind of newer to the political experience, they would say that they're socially liberal, fiscally conservative as well.
Well, I feel like, you're a millennial, I'm a millennial. I feel like that is almost like where the millennial, the Gen Y, whatever the one is after the millennial, that's where we're kind of going.
It's almost cliche at this point.
Do you agree?
Yeah. And what's sad for me now is the socially liberal part is becoming a little bastardized by the word liberal means live and let live. Don't force other people to think a certain way.
You know what I think it is because we have seen as millennials, we have seen so much ridiculousness. It's who are we as, and I'm not speaking for millennials in general, I'm just speaking for myself, and I'll throw it back to you. Who are we to say to somebody else what, to say to a woman what she can do with her body? Who are we to say who can fall in love with somebody else? I feel like that is not my role for someone to say you and you cannot fall in love and be together. That's ridiculous.
Well, then the love component's a unique one, because even if someone disagrees with that choice, how are you going to force the government to draw that line? Once the government got involved in dealing out certificates, rather than the church, for example, love doesn't need a certificate in my mind. Okay, I don't think the state should be involved in it generally. What do you get out of a marriage certificate but for a bunch of laws that protect? It could be property, contract. You're allowed to go into the hospital and get the power of attorney if someone's sick. It's just a bunch of default rules. It's a contract from the legal perspective. And so I agree there. I don't think the state should be involved in it at all, but insofar as it is, it should be equally applied. But I'll also say that now we're forcing thought down people's throats, where it's if you don't agree with this thing, then you're going to get kicked out. You're bigoted. You're going to get legislated out, and I don't think that that's appropriate either. The law shouldn't be a weapon to force people what to do or think.
Right.
Yeah.
The law should be a framework or some guidelines or some standards for living.
The law should only just basically protect your life, your liberty, your contract property.
Right.
That's about it.
Right.
Very basic things. Very small.
I agree 1,000%. Evan Childress, thank you for watching. Kate Elwood, Kimmy Crustcamp, thank you kindly for watching. Peggy Fountain Soller says, what up? Great interview. Andre Scale says, this is a fantastic interview. Alexa Richard says, woof, woof. I think that's back to the dog law right there. Give the show a like and share. Give the show a like and share no matter what stream you are watching. Talk to us about Kimmy. Thank you. She's giving us the hands up emoji. She's loving what she's hearing right now. Give us some insight into your day-to-day as an entrepreneur, as an attorney at your law firm.
Oh, it's awesome. So it's great to go out on your own in this time as a lawyer, because historically we think of it as so stuffy. We think of these big firms with, the many leather-bound books and the rich smell of mahogany, right? But in reality, we can research what we need on a Lexus account, like a Google search, and I can work at the tip of my fingers on a laptop. And being in this wonderful city, I don't need the brick and mortar every day where by the way, if you see those big firms and you think that's the only sign of success, realize they're just overbilling you,
right?
In order to pay
They're
for
paying
the overhead.
For that. That's how they pay for it.
But in this time, also through social media, through crowdfunding, we've got a few cases that are crowdfunded due to the fact that they're civil rights in nature. The clients, aren't going to be able to dole out a huge amount, and so there are a lot of different things that starting a firm in this day and age is amazing. And it's only been going for a relatively short period, so I look forward to continuing to see it grow, but I don't think there's any better place for it than Charlottesville.
What do you think about the category in totality, the future of the category of attorneys, law firms in Charlottesville? Let's go Charlottesville, let's go super micro. I mean, especially downtown, dude, and okay, here's a good example. I'm the largest owner in this building, and in this building there is Lloyd Snook's firm, and he's got 3 attorneys on the first floor. On the second floor there's Andrew Wilder, who I think ran for the Greene County. You know more about this, the Greene County prosecutor. Ray Clark, who is actively involved in Greene County government. John Wallington. So just in this freaking building alone, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's only 2 floors and probably 10 offices.
Yeah, and that's one building.
Yeah.
And then across the street, you've got some, and down the road. We have a lot of attorneys here. I think the more we grow, we're going to have even more. But
byproduct of UVA.
Yeah, byproduct of UVA. You get a lot of UVA alums that, they might go up to D.C. or New York or even West Coast and then come back here. The UVA generally is a good asset in that regard. There's a high quality bar, but I also think that as you see technological innovation, you see that innovative hub and you see the apps, and I hope to see the practice of law decentralized. I hope to reduce the barriers of access, because too often people feel like they don't have their day in court, or they don't have the defense that they need. They're not getting the time allocated. It's a service, and I think that it should be decentralized in a way that is at the tip of your fingers. Florida has a program I just learned about recently where and I don't know, I got to look more into it, but I don't know if Virginia's legal system allows for this yet, but if you need an attorney to show up for your first appearance, you can almost get them like an Uber, right? Where you go to the app, you swipe what you need, you see their ratings.
It should be approachable.
You see their hourly, you see what it's going to cost, and then you can just contract them. And it's a contract service, and it should be decentralized. So I look forward to what this area is going to be able to bring in the future to that. But, McGuire Woods was founded down the street. This was their initial chapter. They're a major firm.
Major firm.
Over 1,000 attorneys. There's a lot of history of kind of the stoic, old school still around too. So it'll be interesting to see how those two things blend in the future.
Josh Elwood, thank you for watching the show. I believe that's Josh Elwood, who was at one time a standout pitcher for Skip Hudgens at the Western Albemarle baseball team. Sarah Hill Buczynski watching in Crozet. Sarah Hill, we're talking about libertarians. I know that's a hot topic for you. Thank you for tuning into the show, Sarah. Mike Condor, thank you kindly for watching here on the I Love CVille show. Give it a like, give it a share. Who is the market leader, you would say, from a law firm totality standpoint in Charlottesville? Is it Mickey Hamlet?
It depends on what you're asking for.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. Is it for commercial litigation, or is it for got to beat a murder charge. Who's my best attorney? You know what I mean? It depends on what you're looking for. I mean,
how about if you got to beat a murder charge?
Well, if you're a dog murderer, I'm the best one.
There you go. I love with the swagger from Elliott Harding right there.
No, yeah. I've actually never had to defend someone in an animal abuse case. That would actually be very tough for me. But if the dog itself is the defendant, I got your back. But yeah, if it depends on who you are. There's a lot of talent. You've got a lot of people that have been here for a long time. It's a collegial bar. Attorneys always get that bad rap of, and it might be well-deserved.
It's almost like developers.
It might be well-deserved. I don't know. But, they're type A sharks that are always
aggressive.
looking to, leverage everything they can on behalf of their client. But when it comes down to it, I think your reputation as an attorney is more important than anything as far as
just in life.
Your respect within the professional network. Do people respect you? Are you reasonable and kind? And so, I don't know. That's what.
If you had to beat a murder charge.
If I had to beat a murder charge here in town, that's tough. I don't know. I don't want to. Look, I can help you out.
I know you can.
I can get you across the finish line. I'm not gonna throw myself under the bus. But Scott Goodman's great.
Scott Goodman's like, he's got a reputation with the DUIs.
Yeah, Scott Goodman's great. Lloyd Snook's great.
Yeah.
I mean, Fran Loris and Rhonda Pagliano are great. All these people have great reputations for a great reason. They've done a lot of great things in their time. And Mike Hallahan's great. That guy is in like 12 different counties all at once. He's represented over 11,000 people.
Get out.
11,000 defendants since he's gone into practice. So, people here, you're going to get a good sample, but also there are a lot of great practitioners from Charlottesville who are maybe in Richmond as well. If I had to really beat a murder charge, I know some good practitioners down there too. So
gonna drop some ducats though.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's worth it.
I guess because you're going.
It's worth it if you're going away, right?
Well said. Well said. Josiah Leonard said it was an Anchorman reference.
It was an Anchorman reference.
Yeah,
when
thank
I
you,
did
Josiah Leonard.
Yeah.
He was totally right.
Yeah.
Like and share the stream. Let's give some props to the people that are watching right now, and then I got a question that I'm going to throw to you. Candace Johnson, what up?
Hey.
Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for giving it a like. Josh Guskin, thank you kindly. Lauren Riggleman. Let's see. Let's give some love to Gabrielle Hoffman.
Hey.
Nick Freitas is loving the show. Caroline Edwards Lee.
Carolyn Lay,
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Summer
Hey,
Sage.
everybody.
A lot of folks watching in Richmond. A lot of folks watching in D.C. right now. We got some folks outside Philly. Let me throw this to you here. As far as Charlottesville and your time and your tenure, how old are you, 29, 28?
29.
29. How have you seen the community change in 29 years?
I've seen a lot of people come into the city thinking they own it, without having read about it or walked the grounds, without recognizing that Charlottesville is a network of people that, people in Fluvanna and Greene and Nelson, when they go out of town, tell people they live in Charlottesville. And obviously it's not Charlottesville proper, but there's a large statistical metropolitan area that there's a local connection that I think is undervalued, and especially from a political sense. You see folks coming in from Iowa or South Carolina or LA or Texas or New York, and because they read about this progressive city, they think, oh, well, this is all it is. We're just going to take all the traditional talking points and everyone's going to agree with us and we're just going to force it on everybody. When in reality, all politics is local, and you need to know what's happening in the local businesses, at the local restaurants. Race relations is a great example. If you want to try to interject the entire Southern history of race into Charlottesville, you'd be wrong, because Charlottesville has its own experience. It's not always great. It's not always the worst, but it's a place where we know how to figure it out on our own, and I think too much, we're seeing it grow. I like seeing it grow. I like seeing the entrepreneurship. I will say that since, over my time, I think people have learned to love Charlottesville due to its extreme amount of great musical talent that comes through here.
Restaurants.
The restaurants, the arts. It's
outdoors.
It's great. UVA has gotten better in sport. I mean, the national championship just a couple weeks ago helps us out. You know, these are great things. People at Fox Fields this weekend. People like the vineyards. Those have blown up over our time. I know you had James King and King family on the other day, and that whole area of business and growth drives people to want to be here. It's just, I think folks might need to have a little bit of respect that you're coming into an area that you don't know everything about it just because you read about it on a blog or something. Like, you need to come and live it.
I'll throw you a couple hard questions here. And first, let me give you an easy one. This one is an easy one. And Alexia Richards.
Yeah.
Am I saying Alexia?
Yeah.
Yeah, she has a good question for you. You're stressed? You're nervous? Are you excited? You're getting married in 2 days? You're off the market? What are you feeling? And give it to us in the mic over here. Give it to us in the mic.
I'm excited. I'm pumped. We're going to have a great day. The weather looks like it's going to be great. Every year from here on out, the anniversary is going to be on Fox Field Day. So that's going to be a fun way to celebrate. I'm a little stressed too. Alexia knows this. I'm a little stressed too because one of my best friends is running for the House of Delegates the same day.
Yeah.
There's a special election for Richard Fox. He's running in the House of Delegates same day. So up until about noon that day, I'm going to be knocking doors to tell people to go vote.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go get ready for the wedding.
Okay.
Because what else am I going to do in the morning?
Well, and it's your passion.
Yeah. And we're all friends. And so I'm looking forward to Saturday. I think it's going to be great. And then I'm also looking forward.
Is Richard in the wedding?
He's coming to the wedding.
Coming to the wedding.
Yeah, after the polls close.
Golly.
Hopefully it's a victory party and an after
Hopefully he's
party.
celebrating. Hopefully you guys are drinking some brown liquor together.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, what do you think? What do you think? How's that race going to shake out?
It's all going to come. I mean, this is the biggest. Every race comes down to turnout by definition, but it's a low-profile race.
It is a low-profile race.
It's April 27th, Saturday. It's the only race in Virginia taking place that day.
Why?
I'll do it in like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Steve Landis retired unexpectedly to run for clerk of court because that position came open unexpectedly. There was a 24-hour window for people to file to run. It's a party-run process, and if you live in Albemarle County and you want to vote for Richard Fox, he and I agree on 98% of all the issues, and the ones we disagree on, we have fun going back and forth on. But you vote at Crozet Library between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. on Saturday. So maybe, before you go to Fox Field or you're after, go vote at Crozet Library and vote for Fox. But that's why it's not getting the attention. It's purely party run. It's low budget. It's very grassroots, and it was only a 5 or 6 week race, so not a lot of people know about it.
Casey Clausen, thank you for joining us on the show. Al Schornberg, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Kane Walsenchuk, the best racquetball player in the world, is literally watching the show right now. What's up, Kane? Thank you for joining us on the stream right here. We love your racquetball
By the
game,
way,
homie.
sorry for the loss last night.
I took a loss in the Charlottesville Racquetball
Congrats
Championships.
on getting that close, though, man.
Yeah, I've made it to 3 straight Charlottesville Racquetball Championships, yet to get off the snide right there. I lost to Bruce Pierce, who's the ACAC Racquetball Director, and he is a beast, 35 in the state of Virginia. Let me throw this to you here. Let me ask you about, you talked about the UVA men's basketball team.
Yeah.
They're national champions.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was awesome.
I loved watching the game. I watched the semifinals and the Final Four at Peloton Station. Okay. I was at Peloton Station. It's a local watering hole on 10th Street. My homie, Curtis Shaver, is the owner of Peloton Station. I look around Peloton Station, and I see people from every socioeconomic background. We have African Americans.
Yep.
We have, I'm Cuban American. We have white folks. Everybody cheering for a common goal that this UVA men's basketball team make it to the national championship. It was the Final Four game.
Yeah.
And then, ladies and gentlemen, they won the national championship.
Yep.
And Larry Sabato,
Yeah.
and I believe it was the Washington Post, and then David Toscano, which was in the Charlottesville Daily Progress. Both gentlemen were quoted as saying, and I'll paraphrase, that UVA's national championship has helped bring the community together, has galvanized the community, and helped us focus on one common goal of healing since August 11th and August 12th. It was a time where we were all together as one, and we need this now more than ever in Charlottesville. Now I segue to the question. Immediately after Sabato and Toscano's quotes were in print, our mayor Mayor Walker, I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah.
You probably did.
Nah,
You're well read.
I saw
Yeah,
her.
she demonized the victory.
Sure.
She maybe that's not the right word. How about marginalized the victory and said UVA men's basketball's national championship win should not take precedent, should not disguise, should not cloud our judgment of what's truly happening in Charlottesville, with Charlottesville just being ugly to the soul place, in her own words. Thoughts on that?
I'll say this much. I'm sure Mayor Walker was happy we won the national championship. And I don't think she was saying that it doesn't matter and y'all are fools. And
so you think the execution was not great?
I mean, she was just speaking to say, hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We haven't fixed anything. But it's great to have, I mean, nobody's going to argue that it wasn't amazing. I mean, I was down outside of Boylan Heights down there because I wanted to take it in. It's been my whole life since we've won anything I mean, lacrosse and baseball, sure, no offense to those sports, they're great. But football and basketball, the big two, we've been struggling for a very long time. And to see it happen, especially after the year before when we went down to a 16 seed, I don't know. It was a pressure release that, like you said, unified everybody for a night. And I wish we could have every night like that. I wish people could unify behind whether it be affordable housing or other projects, but they don't. And when you demonize people for unifying, I think you kind of become a Debbie Downer. And so I think maybe the timing was a little off. But I understand her sentiment. I mean, there are issues
within 24 hours of the win.
Right. I mean,
she's putting this on Facebook.
The point is there are people suffering right now for some reason due to a government system that's broken. Yes, but that doesn't mean someone behind bars was watching it on television, and I know for a fact that they were happy to see us win. Meaning there are things that connect through even to the people that are going through a rough time for some reason, and the city needs more experiences like that. And not to bring it full circle, but Joe Biden having a kickoff here would not have been one of those unifying experiences.
How do you think that would have gone if Biden had his kickoff here?
It would have been a train wreck for him.
Bellamy Brown, thank you for watching. He's running for Charlottesville City Council as an independent. Love Bellamy Brown. How do you think the Biden kickoff would have gone?
Oh, it would have been a train wreck. I think the left would have shouted him down. The right would have been happy to join them. I mean, I know for a fact I already knew the quote I was going to take. I'm not an activist in that sense, but if the leading candidate, according to the polls, comes into your backyard and wants to kick a hornet's nest that he has no place touching, I think he would have been shouted out. And I think he knew not to do it.
I think Joe Biden, if he had announced his campaign in Charlottesville, he would have galvanized the community, not to the extent of the UVA men's basketball team, but he undoubtedly would have galvanized the community, all socioeconomic backgrounds, all races, anybody.
Right.
And he pivoted and got the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah. So, I mean, to your original point, though, about UVA, it was awesome.
It was awesome.
It's still awesome. It's going to be awesome again in the future. But right now, we should relish in it. And then if we want to talk about other important issues, let's do it. But let's be happy, too.
Dave Norris says Elliott is the bomb. I'm a big Dave Norris fan. Dave Norris, I got nothing but love for you. Give Dave Norris some love.
Norris. I saw Dave Norris at Boden's yesterday.
Yeah, Dave Norris is hard to miss.
Well, yeah, tall man.
Tall man, redhead,
yep.
beard.
Yep.
One of our fantastic mayors.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Charlottesville city government? Open-ended question, then I'll go specifics.
I'm glad to see fresh faces running. I know who I'm going to be supporting.
Can I ask who?
I mean, sure. Well, how about this? I'll tell you who I think's going to win. How about that?
Can I throw the odds and then you?
Sure.
Go? Okay. I got Lloyd. This is like, you're a sports fan.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like thegreek.com, one of the gambling websites. Okay.
Yeah.
So I got Lloyd Snook 2-1.
Uh-huh.
I got Bellamy Brown 4-1. Mm-hmm. I got Michael Payne 6.5-1. I got Brian Pigston, let's call Pigston 7.5, maybe 8-1. He's coming on late. He's building some momentum. Mm-hmm. And then I got Bob Fenwick just did something at the Dewberry. Bob Fenwick is kind of tying the Dewberry to his campaign. I'll give Bobby Fenwick a 10-1, and then I'll give the field at 13-1. The rest of the candidates. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts?
I think those are fair odds.
Yeah?
That's probably what I expect to see. Pingston Payne is going to be a unique
it's going to be interesting.
Box out.
Yeah.
It all comes down to which Democrats get on the ballot, but I think the three that'll get on will be, I think the three you listed, but...
who do you think the three are going to be?
I think it's going to be...
Snook?
Snook, Pingston, and Payne.
Yeah.
Nothing against Cena
Yeah.
McGill. I don't
Right.
know their politics.
I caught
I'm not
some flack
I'm
on-
not a Democrat member. I'm the opposite. So
Yeah, but you follow politics.
Maybe I'm just fanning the flames of everybody else.
I caught some flack on social for putting those odds out there, and a lot of folks are like, what about Cena McGill? And I was not marginalizing Cena McGill. I just think from the efforts we have seen so far,
Right.
the brand equity, the brand awareness that are tied to the candidates, what they have done. I mean, Lloyd Snook has been an attorney and actively involved in Charlottesville
he's got the
for
larger name ID
decades.
out of everybody.
He's got the biggest name
He was
recognition.
the head of the local party at one point.
Right.
So
He ran for planning commission. I think he was on the planning commission.
of course he's. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an objective observation.
That's all I was doing.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's all I'm coming from too. I'm not trying to like put my thumb on the scale.
Okay, how about the fact that 3 seats are going to change on council?
I'm excited about that.
Tell me why.
Fresh voices are good voices, and I don't know if the former 3 collectively. The city had some crazy stuff go down while they were there, and it's not any one of their fault or what. It's not even all of their fault. It's
You
just
think the city needed a clean house?
the,
I mean,
peop-
it did
the
clean
people
house.
I think the people as a whole. I think even they knew that it was just their blood pressure must be way lower now that they know they're not having to do this again. I don't know about Kathy Galvin. She's got her own race going on. But as far as Mike and Wes, I think their blood pressure's lower knowing that they're not having to go out there and answer for everything good and bad that possibly took place.
Was it fair?
Was what fair?
The heat that Mike Signer at the time was the mayor, Dr. Wes Bellamy,
It's
Kathy
absolutely
Galvin.
fair
You think
because
it's
they
fair?
intentionally violated the Virginia code.
You're saying by trying to get statues out of the park.
You can disagree about whether the statue should go or not, but everyone knows it's against the law to
Right.
do it. So
Well, at the
when,
local level.
at
The city council had no ability to get these statues
Right.
out, yet they used it to their advantage.
former
for
council
personal gain.
member said it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah.
When a city suspends the rule of law, you enable others to do so as well. And so it's an extreme position to say it's as a legislated body, we're going to ask for forgiveness rather than permission. It puts law enforcement in a very bad position to ask them to enforce something that might in and of itself be a violation.
I think that's a sizzle reel right there.
I mean, I don't know.
Let's that was money. Find a good starting point for that at Harris Tolber and go through that right there. Because I mean, it's coming from an attorney, someone born and raised in the area that's passionate about it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good precedent for Charlottesville, the place where if you don't like a law, you change it. That's the great part of the democratic republic that we live in. You don't go out and violate it or quit enforcing it. You enforce it, and then you make your case as to why it should be changed.
With the benefit of hindsight, what if you were in these positions? What would you have done differently outside of saying, "I would not have said I'm going to remove these statues"?
All right. First of all, I disagree with the removal component altogether. So, like, I'm not on the removal side. But if I were, I can play devil's advocate all day.
For the sake of a talk show.
Right. If I wanted to remove the statues, I would have made the case to the state that we need the autonomy to be able to do something respectful with those statues. And maybe the state wants to buy them, maybe a nonprofit, maybe a museum, what have you.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think that we should be focusing on things that aren't 150 years old. How many other people have come since Robert E. Lee that we should be talking about that are positive? I mean, Virginia's the home of the first black elected governor in the United States, right? We've come very far, and we still have a lot of places to go, but Charlottesville should be focusing on the positive figures, and I think we are now, right? I mean, we're seeing that conversation, and I'd rather have people unify behind recognition of those who have gone unrecognized rather than become divided over something 150 years ago.
You know, and that's the end of the sizzle reel, that point. It'll be a longer sizzle reel. That was on point. Find the good starting point and end it there. Carl Brown came on the show yesterday, and Terrence Johnson and Jacob Beam, thank you for watching. John Gilmore, Meg Taylor, Dan Barnes, thank you for watching. Like and share the stream no matter what channel you're watching on. Carl Brown came on the show yesterday, and I encourage you guys to watch it on ilovecville.com. It was a killer interview. And he said something similar. And he said that removing the statues not necessarily the right approach. Instead, the right approach was acknowledging and honoring and spotlighting men and women from the African American community that needed attention, and perhaps doing so in a way where you go to is it Market Street Park now? Market Street Park now, and have a statue that celebrates and champions men and women from the African American community right next to the Robert E. Lee statue.
I immediately had a petition that got about 700 signatures to put one up to Julian Bond, who I disagree with on a lot of things, but I respect what the guy did in his life. I mean, I respect people that I can disagree with because they were able to champion things they believed in a way that ultimately resulted in positive outcomes. And Julian Bond taught at UVA for like 25 years, lived here. He passed away in 15. And I'm thinking, this is a nationally recognized individual.
Big time.
From the civil rights component who Charlottesville easily could have recognized as a figure. It wasn't like he just lived here for a minute. I mean, he was Dr. Bond at UVA. And again, we can disagree on a lot of politics. I probably disagree on Lee with a lot of politics, right? I mean, but let's draw a contrast. Like you said, like Ms. Brown said, like let's draw that contrast of these other figures that are there and say, look, we now live in a Commonwealth of Virginia where somebody like Bond is able to have the influence he has, or, you know, someone else from the area. We don't have to only pick national figures. I mean, we can pick local figures too, where these folks are here, and we live in a 2019 where they're going to get recognized too. And maybe it's Oliver Hill, you know, with the legal cases that took place in our backyard. Maybe it's judges. Maybe it's, legislators, politicians, leaders, civic leaders, teachers, what have you. I'm 100% behind that. I know people across the entire Republican left, Democratic perspective, white, black, old, young. And if we really want to fix issues, let's just pour that money and attention into, getting our literacy rates up, rather than having to give $1 million to remedial education in Charlottesville High School for kids that have already graduated.
Yeah, the shocking quote, the shocking number, and thank you, Robbie Shep, for watching. Thank you, Terrence Johnson. He gave us the fist up emoji. That's what we're talking about. Emily Holter, Karen Straley, thank you for tuning into the show. Tim Griffin says, go, Elliott Harding, go. You're on point right now. Larry Cosme, like and share the stream, guys. Like and share the stream no matter where you're watching. It was like $750,000 estimate for getting and removing the statues and taking them somewhere. $750,000.
You know how many public defenders and teachers that is?
Well, and take it a step further. Even like we are now at a time where we're raising real estate taxes, lodging taxes, and meals taxes. $750,000 to get those bad boys out of there.
Yeah, don't even give me, look, forget the statues. They still don't know how to manage a budget if they're trying. They try to raise real estate taxes to fix affordable housing, which is the antithesis of how you do it, because of supply and demand. I'm thinking you're only raising the barrier of entry for people to buy their own homes, and you're raising the rates on those who rent. Right.
As a landlord myself, guys, with 23 tenants, the increased taxes get passed in the leases.
And that has nothing to do with the statues, but I'm saying we're looking for ways to waste money.
In some ways, they're associated.
They're looking for ways to waste money rather than focusing on the core things that a local government should do.
Why do you think that is? Just because you don't have businessmen and entrepreneurs and people that actually...
because people want to draw attention to rhetorical issues rather than... And they say that, the counter arguments can be, oh, well, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can fight the symbols of white supremacy while also fixing the schools. No, we haven't proven to be able to do any of that. I don't know why you think we can. There was a trash can in front of the Vinegar Hill plaque for years, even though the city had said that it was supposed to go down. What makes you think you can remove a statue? You can't even get the Vinegar Hill plaque out into the sunlight until someone went in there and reminded them of that. Governments are usually inefficient, and the more things we try to tackle, the worse it's going to get. And, I'm glad they didn't raise the real estate taxes, especially for the purposes that they were trying to say.
Right.
If we're going to fix affordable housing, we liberate the zoning laws first so that people can
55% of land in the city of Charlottesville is zoned R1, single family homes only. That right there is the first step to fixing affordable housing. Change the effing zoning.
Thank you.
And make the zoning more inclusive to dense housing, to in-law apartments, to apartments that you can build in your backyard that you can rent out to people. And then that's going to help affordable housing. Claire Sullenberg, thank you for watching. John Craig from CVille Hop On Tours, thank you for watching. Johnson D. Carpenter, attaboy Elliott. You sound absolutely fantastic. I want to get my boy Harris Tolber in the mix with the next question. Harris, I'm going to throw it to you after this next question. So get ready to rock and roll, baby. Why don't you run? For anything. Are you a behind-the-scenes guy, or are you a guy on the front lines guy?
I'm getting married in 2 days. Talk to me after that.
How about 1, 3, 5-year goals from a politics standpoint?
Reality says I live in a city of Charlottesville that's 85% Democratic, right? And sure, there's a place for independence, and I appreciate...
Mayor's an independent. Bellamy Brown has a good chance of winning as an independent.
Well, and they're running in different angles. You know, the mayor ran to the left of the party in order to fight the party.
Bellamy Brown is in a lot of ways a conservative.
Bellamy Brown has a lot to offer, and I'm excited that Bellamy's running.
Me too.
And I'm excited that the mayor ran as an independent.
Me too.
Because I wish everybody would run as an independent so that people would look at people based on the issues they're talking about rather than the letter next to their name.
Right. I would like if people ran as no party affiliation.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
As running as like Elliott Harding and running as Jerry Miller, as Harris Tolber.
Right. Now, you know, and so if you want to build a brand so that people understand who you are, then sure, you can relate and say, Jerry and I share a lot of the same things in this issue.
Right.
Or you know, Bellamy Brown and I share a lot of things on this issue, but it's not going to be, oh, we're all Democrats or we're all Republicans, because we disagree a lot on a lot of things, especially at the local level. And that's where I think more people get along at the local level than at the national level. I think politics has gotten too national.
Yeah.
And everyone has a connotation of, oh, if Elliott were a Republican because he's in the party, he must agree with everything at the federal level. When in fact, the local council level, it's like, we're talking about taxes and affordable housing, not border security or you know, macroeconomic policy. We're talking about local issues that touch everybody.
I'm getting a lot of props. John Craig, good points on affordable housing and zoning. Love this. Alexia Richards, you guys are crushing this real estate taxes argument. Thoroughly enjoying the show. Caroline Edwards Lay absolutely agrees as well. Harris Tolber, my boy, jump in here. Thoughts, comments, concerns, anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, I've immensely enjoyed this. Elliott has made some really eye-opening points. Your comments on Mayor Walker's reaction to the UVA win, like, I've been trying to articulate that to people, and like word for word, I think what you said was exactly how I would say that. Like, she's obviously not unhappy that we won. You know what I mean? It's like, but she's just trying to like point, like, hold up, guys. You know, there's still some things going on here we need to focus on. In regard to the statues, immediately said, I never really supported the removal of these statues, so I was like, I kind of do, so we're about to disagree, perhaps. But then you went on to say, I have a different strategy, which is, let's take the people who, instead of focusing on these statues that are age-old, let's take people who have gone unnoticed and championed, and let's put them in this. Like, why haven't we been putting them in the spotlight?
We don't have any women recognized either.
Exactly.
You know, people talk about race. 50% of the population is gone. The only one is Pocahontas.
Or
Sacagawea. I'm sorry. Oh, that is insensitive on my part.
Sacagawea, and Coy Barefoot's made this argument in a lot of ways too. A lot of ways, Sacagawea and the Lewis and Clark statue.
She's like cowering.
She is not characterized in what perception is reality the right way.
Sorry to interrupt, but we agree,
Yeah. What else you got, Toby? You got anything else?
Yeah, and then, something that I've been thinking about, I just want to hear y'all's take on it. And I've mentioned this before in regards to, well, first of all, A12, the thing with Joe Biden, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Like, the problem is, like, because we were having the statute debate, which led to A12, it's like now Charlottesville, who was having a statute debate, which was essentially trying to help out and put in a better position, minority members in our community. Like now Charlottesville is being put in the same sentence with racism for the next like 10 years or how in the history books, you know what I mean? So it's like it backfired like tenfold, and that was a big shame. But anyway, what I wanted to ask you guys is, like, I remember the week before A12, and I remember thinking, like, I know that everybody in this town is going to go downtown and fight the fight. And, like, I respect everyone who did. Like,
I was there. Jerry
was there. Like, I it's amazing. I love that. At the same time, I was thinking, like, as a... Like,
you don't want to give them the attention, is what you're saying.
In my opinion, any attention is what they wanted.
Yes, you're exactly right.
It's like negative or like attention is what they wanted, and so what if we had like
a ghost town?
A ghost town. They go down there. There's nobody there, and then a week later we hold a big time anti-rally.
I mean, what I love. There's this movie quote.
Go to the two shot over here.
There's this movie quote, but it's what could we put in this hand to make you forget about what's happening? Why didn't we have a counter positive event on the other side of town that everybody's going to? Yeah. Let's get creative. That's one thing the government is always lacking in creativity, right? And if we have this massive Nazi rally coming in and the city knows it, why not actively use our platform to find positive figures to maybe come into the town, and we'll do something somewhere over on the other side of town?
Exactly.
Right? Let's raise money for something positive that can be unifying, and let these guys go play, Nazi in the park.
Yeah.
And now some people, say, oh, we have to fight hate with speech and stuff. I get that, but I agree with you 100%. I think we fed right into, as a city, we fed right into what they wanted, and it was tragic.
Here's my take on that, and I'll throw it back to you guys. Here's my take on that. Had Charlottesville and Central Virginia and Albemarle County ignored A11 and A12 and not showed up on grounds, Cena McGill's husband was seriously injured on grounds on August 11th, to the point where, like, he almost died. And that was her influence to get into the city council race because of what happened to Tyler, her husband.
Well, the cops have to be there. Don't get me wrong. That's different.
Here's what I'm going to throw to you is, had Charlottesville, Central Virginia, Albemarle County ignored A11, A12, never showed up on grounds, never showed up right here in front of this building on Market Street, this is what would have happened. You still would have had hundreds of people here, and those hundreds of people here would have been the Antifa, would have been the KKK, would have been the Nazis, would have been Richard Spencer and Jason Kessler's dumbass goons.
Yeah.
And there still would have been hundreds of people out here. And the national media would still have misconstrued and manipulated and exploited the story and spun a narrative that this is Charlottesville.
Right. Well, we had the Klan rally.
In July.
But the city was unfortunately the site that about like 40 ragtag guys in hoods,
right.
Go and play Klansmen in the park, and ultimately that played itself out pretty peacefully because there was a great barrier for it. They were pathetic if you look at their numbers.
They were absolutely pathetic.
And nobody talks about that one because there wasn't so much.
Because there wasn't violence.
Right. In fact, the biggest controversy that came after was the people lingering in the streets afterwards and the tear gas and all that.
Yeah, tear gas, right.
Yeah. But other than that, it was pretty low key. Now, the media is going to do what it wants to do, but sometimes we have to try to at least do our best to drive a positive counter alternative. And that's what I was talking about with the statue stuff. And that's what I would say. I agree with you. That's what I would try to do from the rally stuff is what can we put over here that's more positive and unifying rather than fighting extremism with extremism.
Johnson D. Go ahead, Harris.
Oh, sorry. My last point is like back to the attention thing. Is like that is one problem with media, social media, and the national media is like
exploitation.
They're obviously coming into our town to report these things because we need to know about them as a nation, right? But the counter thing is like, by coming into the town and reporting it, they're fanning the flames like because they're giving these people exactly what they want. You know what I mean? They want to be in the national spotlight, and like. Also, like, I have family members and friends who, like, absolutely despise Donald Trump. And, like, but at the same time they spend their every waking moment like uploading their updating
The memes.
their Twitter feed so they can see what he said next, because it's their main source of entertainment. It's like how do you
Well, the news, what's that phrase? If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah, if it
right?
bleeds, it leads.
And the same problem exists with like mass shootings.
Yeah.
You know, where they're
The
always
same problem exists with beautiful blonde girls that go missing or kidnapped in island vacations.
Right.
I mean, that leads for constant.
Rolling Stone put the Boston bomber on the front of it.
Rolling Stone exploited my fraternity at the University of Virginia,
Right.
Phi Kappa Psi,
Right.
with the Jackie story.
Right.
And then we all, as fraternity brothers, were like, this is absolute nonsense.
Right.
But I still had to deal with the questions at Thanksgiving from Grandma.
Sure.
Was like, so Jerry, you guys do this as initiation? I'm like, Grandma, what the heck?
Yeah, Charlottesville gets blown out of proportion in a lot of stories.
You know why it is? I think why it is because of the attention we got as the #1 place to live for so long in the country. I mean, every Tom, Dick, and Harry reporter was calling us the #1 place to live. And because of that positive attention, we were an easy target for people to exploit on the other side of the coin.
Yeah, I mean, people don't like UVA grads for the. I mean, there's a negative connotation.
Right. Affluence, success,
Yeah.
people of means.
Yeah.
You know, but
I mean,
what's
we
wrong
play
with
into the narrative with the seersucker and the ties for the football games.
Fox
but,
Fields?
I mean, you know,
that's going away.
Yeah. So
Do you wear the tie to the football game?
No, I never wore a tie.
I
to a
never
football
did
game.
either.
No, man.
I did sneak the flask with bourbon into the football game.
I'm not going.
I'm going there. Johnson D. Carpenter says, I spoke at City Council in the very beginning stages of the statute debate, but once it got turned into something different, I just had to step away from it and distance myself from what I knew it would eventually become. It's a bummer because I attempted to contribute to a dialogue and it got hijacked, completely removing any possibility of what I hope to be a constructive debate. This will be the final topic, and you've made the show great.
I appreciate you having me.
I've enjoyed this.
Thanks.
We have good dynamic and good chemistry. Yeah. This is what I'll close with. City Council, you go there, it's now like a screaming match. My good friend is Peter Castiglione, one of the co-owners of Maya Restaurant.
Right.
He went and spoke against the meals tax as someone who owns a restaurant and someone that's part of the Virginia Tourism Lodging and Restaurant Association. He has 3 minutes to speak. In the midst of the 3 minutes of speaking, he says he was, and this is his words, not mine, he says he was then interrupted and aggressively countered by Mayor Walker and some of the council members to the point where he lost his train of thought and was unable to continue where he wanted to go in his 3 minutes. And before he knew it, they're like, time is up. Go sit down, Peter. Yeah. Your thoughts on city council chambers and how everything is playing out?
Well, I mean, obviously nobody wants to hear.
Because you've spoken there.
Yeah, I've spoken there several times. Nobody wants that experience, obviously. I don't think it's appropriate for council to interject unless invited in that comment time. Meaning, you know, if I go up there and I'm asking a question or I'm seeking a back and forth experience, that's great. But when we hear things like, you left your hat and you can take your compromise with you from the dais.
That was Dr. Wes Bellamy.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know how Wes is his own man. He might stand on that type of comment still. He might regret those words. I don't know what he thinks about that. But the point is that was a moment where I thought that's not needed. That ends up begetting division in the city. And if you're trying to be a champion for people, you need support. You need to be diplomatic. And I give a lot of credit to those who are seeking to be diplomatic. Even if they're not going to budge at all, at least hear people out and provide them with some respect. You know, right now we've had a council that's really good at recently raising issues without necessarily solving those issues. And I don't know what makes them think the government's the way to do it. Maybe they need to get out of the way. Maybe they should be looking to see what can we do to not be the barrier of entry. And not to beat a dead horse, but zoning laws are government regulations, right? And without government, people are building whatever they want. So when they're super restrictive, maybe the government is the initial source of the affordable housing problem, not the evil, rich, capitalist developer.
The entrepreneurs.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. That's a good way to close. You crushed it. Dean says, phenomenal show. Chris and Crozet says, I've watched this from start to finish. It was absolutely fantastic. Rick Henderson in Richmond says, I thoroughly enjoyed what happened today. Tim Ryan says, you guys have a great dynamic. You guys should do this again. Thank you guys kindly for watching the show. Give it a like, give it a share. Thank you to Elliott Harding for joining us. We will certainly welcome him back. I close the show the same way every single time. And how I close the show the same way every single time, guys, is by asking, encouraging, nudging everyone to embody the golden rule. And if you treat others like you want to be treated yourself, this world would be a better place. It's not about religion. It's about treating others how you want to be treated yourself. And if you do that, watch the positive viral impact it will happen, especially in a community like Charlottesville that undoubtedly needs positivity in its ecosystem. I think we also, one of the positives that have come from August 12th and August 11th is conversations like we've had with Elliott and conversations like we had with Mr. Carl Brown yesterday, where we are now more willing to have conversations where in the past we were like, we got to walk on eggshells. Am I saying the wrong thing? Am I saying the right thing? That conversation, that dialogue must be had for us to figure out solutions to systematic issues and issues that are undoubtedly present in Charlottesville in 2019, in April 2019. So live life by the golden rule, treat others like you want to be treated yourself, and ladies and gentlemen, please do not be afraid to have dialogue and conversations with stuff that you may not have had 5, 3, 2 years ago, 18 months ago. Okay, I'm Jerry Miller, and in an hour and 9 minutes, we're going to have the Caring for Creatures show here on the I Love CVille network. They are Central Virginia's first no-kill animal sanctuary. I am a huge animal lover, okay? And we're going to spotlight a charity, a nonprofit in Caring for Creatures that takes animals from kill shelters all over the eastern seaboard and brings them to Central Virginia to give them a second shot at life. For Harris Tolber, for Elliott Harding, for Judah Wickhauer, for Lauren Linsky, it's the I Love CVille show. We'll see you in an hour and 8 minutes now on the I Love CVille network. Good work, dude.
Awesome. You too, man.
That was fun.
That was
Did you
good
enjoy
time.
it?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I
appreciate you
love the
guys.
dialogue. I think you'll see, you'll get a lot of comments.
That was great, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Harris Tolber.